and let us all do we can to build a better future.
Yes, you're going to be running into people that you don't like, who share their opinions that you might not agree with. Now, we all have a right to speak our minds. We all have a right to voice our opinions. Now, Alex Jones, being who he is a very controversial individual. There's no sugarcoating that. However, when he was removed, same thing like Donald Trump or anyone else that's been on social media, be it X, now formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all these social media platforms, I'm against it when someone gets censored or deplatformed. And we here at Hard Lens Media know that all too well. We've been censored not once, but 8 times. It's not a fun thing to do. Me and Daniel can talk to you about it for days on end, about why it sucks and what it does to a content creator. However, when Alex Jones was removed off of all the social media platforms, we, as well as a few other brave souls, were the first ones to say, well, wait a minute, this opens up the Pandora's box for everyone to be on the chopping block. Now, Alex Jones has been reinstated on X, and he is once again posting on social media, sharing his thoughts and opinions, and people are in their own right voicing their opinions. However, Piers decided to say, well, I don't know. He still should be removed. But I'm glad I had Count Dankula on here, who was able to give his counter opinion. So let's play this.
Yeah, I think he's completely right in doing it. It's
Why?
Elon Musk's company, so if he wants Alex Jones back on the platform, then he absolutely can. And he did put it to a poll to the public, Vox Populi, Vox Day, and people said they wanted him back on the platform, so he's brought them back on the platform.
Well, it's an amateur poll. 2 million of his followers voted. We don't know how many times each one voted, etc., etc. It's not a sophisticated.
Each account can only vote once.
Yeah, but my point is there a line though on free speech at all for you?
For me personally, no.
Nothing.
No. I think that Alex Jones should be able to go on Twitter. If they want him there, then that's fine. They can have him there, and he can.
Do you think what he said about the Sandy Hook massacre was justified? Then?
Justified? Like he has the right to say it. Wouldn't say it was justified.
$1.2 billion worth of.
Now look, all right. Everything that he said about that horrific shooting that took place was horrific. But people are going to be people. It's not the first time we've seen someone go off the edge and say something that should not have been said. But this is why we have the First Amendment. And, of course, the fallout from that was downright epic. And that's what still leads to for Alex Jones to be viewed as controversial as he is. However, it did open up the floodgates for people to embrace deplatforming, censorship, and cancel culture. And someone who's been censored 8 times, I can tell you it doesn't work. It has the opposite effect because the very same people who call for censorship, eventually they themselves get censored. See, it doesn't work that way. You just can't make people disappear. We theoretically live in a republic, a democracy. We're supposed to have these fundamental rights, and at least as it stands right now, the First Amendment is important here in the United States for us to speak our minds. Our founding fathers made it the first one for a reason. Let's continue on.
Damages awarded against him for one of the most serious
biggest civil suit against an individual in the history of America.
One of the worst defamations, actually, in terms of damages America's ever seen. Damages and defamation is not protected by the First Amendment, and yet you think he was entitled to say it.
I think he had a right to say it.
Now, I want to be very clear here. He had the right to say it, right? Should he have said it? Probably not. No. But he had the right to say it, just like all of you in the live stream chat, and even after this show, what you post on social media, or what you post on other shows, or what you say to friends, you have a right to say how you feel. Now, I know a lot of us have like a little bit, maybe a breaker here and there and say, well, wait, I shouldn't say it like this, or I should word it differently. But you, as it stands right now, unless something else happens and everything decides to go upside down, technically, you have the right to say it. You have the right to speak your mind. Is this a controversial thing to say? Yeah, absolutely it is. But I believe in the First Amendment. I'm a free speech absolutist. And as someone who has been censored, I don't like it. I hate it. And it's very frightening. And when it happens to you, trust me on it, you're going to be on edge too. Because the one thing that's going to be playing in your mind, especially when you go through it in the trenches, when does it stop? When does the system decide to go full on crazy and just say, hey, here's what you're going to do and think. And if you fall out of line in one bit, boom, you're gone. It's important to believe in the First Amendment.
He's right to say that a mass shooting that killed 20 young kids was a fake and a hoax, that the parents of the grieving dead were crisis actors. These were statements which he repeatedly made, which led to actual intimidation, harassment, death and rape threats, and people in the street going up to these people and confronting them, these parents. You think all that is fine?
I don't think it's fine. I never said it's
What
fine.
I
said he has a right to do it.
Does he have a right to do it?
Yeah, agreeing that someone has a right.
Do you think he has a right to do that?
Yeah, I think he has a right to do it.
Really?
Agreeing that someone has a right to do something isn't the same as agreeing with what they say.
No.
I'm going to rewind that again. They have a right to do it. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it. Hey, we're all free people until the system decides to drop the hammer, as it stands. Because we're living in very interesting times. And I say this because after the 2020 election, I just noticed that the censorship was being ramped up to 11. And it angers me that there are people who are calling for full on censorship and deplatforming, even those who have political power and a lot of clout. And that there are regular people who agree with it and think, yes, because so far they believe that their leaders will protect them and that if they're good lemmings, everything will be fine. Listen, you never want to be a lemming. Never do that. That's something you should avoid. Be a free thinker. Now, Alex Jones or Donald Trump, those two individuals, they have a right to say what they want to say. Should they say it in that manner or anything else? Well, that's a matter of opinion. I'm not a fan of those two, but they do have a right to speak, just like all of you have a right to speak. And I'm proud of our audience here at Hard Lens Media because we have libertarians, Greens, socialists, Republicans, and yes, surprise, surprise, the occasional liberal comes in here and there just to say, oh, you're just a mean person or you're just a conservative. Well, guess what? All of you have a right to share your opinion. And I've read the comments too. People say, oh, I like your take on that. Or, hey, I'm of this political affiliation, but I agree with your perspective. Or then sometimes like, I don't agree with it. You're wrong. You're wrong on this. The liberals are the most funniest one of them all. They're like, oh, you're just going to help Trump win, aren't you? No, that's not at all. Donald Trump's going to win because the Democrats suck. There we go.
Do you think he has a right to do that?
Yeah, I think he has a right to do it.
Really?
Agreeing that someone has a right to do something isn't the same as agreeing with what they say.
No, I agree.
I agree.
You actually think he has a right to do what he did with the consequences we now know happened?
Yes, basically, a bunch of nutters did do a lot of awful stuff after the fact, but that's basically going down the same route of, remember back in the 90s, they wanted to ban video games and Dungeons and Dragons because they thought it caused violence and devil worship. Or you can't, engage with this type of, media, otherwise it's going to cause X, Y, Z, like rap music causes violence, all that other nonsense. If we're saying, oh, this guy's not allowed to say his conspiracy theories or whatever you want to call them because some crazy guy out there might do something mental, then nobody can talk about anything at all.
Well, you can. There are limits to free speech as there are everything else. Even First Amendment, America has a number of limitations to it.
There shouldn't be limitations. Now, I get it. You just can't scream fire in a crowded building. I understand that. But see, the thing is, as soon as we start nitpicking or stating, well, this shouldn't be said or this person should speak out, it opens up a horrible path in which we embrace establishment narratives and that average citizens cannot speak out or question authority. How many times has our media lied to us or our politicians? Just for old time's sake, let's just bring out this old gem. Let's have democracy in the chat. I know democracy. What is that? What is democracy? I don't know. Sounds like a nice idea. In theory, it sounds like a nice idea. Type 1 for Kit. How dare you? The establishment, our politicians, and our media do a good job. They would never lie to us for their own profit or controlling a narrative or having a war. Shame on you. Shame on you. You don't have a leg to stand on. Shame on you. How dare you? How dare you? How simply dare you? Type 2, man. No, man. We can't. We have to speak out because we have been lied to. We have been screwed over. Hell, inflation is getting so bad it's costing $300 just to go outside. God damn it. I wonder how many 2s we're gonna get in the chat. But hold on, folks. It gets better. Because look, everyone, Nomiki gets to join the conversation. Isn't that special?
Russian bots.
Okay, let me bring in Glenn.
Now, earlier she was talking about how Russian bots on X, which I think should be called Phoenix, but nonetheless, put me in charge of naming things, Elon. Trust me on it. It would have been better. You would have still had the bird and X, Phoenix. It would have worked. But whatever, it doesn't matter. Somehow Russian bots are boosting up people like Count Dankula or Glenn Greenwald or Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson. Russian bots are doing everything. We're living in a mad world here, folks. And I hope that someday sanity returns. Truly, I do. But in case all else fails, no matter what you're doing for today, if something doesn't go right or there's a little accident and you won't get blamed for it, just blame a Russian bot. I'll be okay.
Greenwald. Glenn, you like me, you're a big supporter of the principle of free speech. And let's just lay that on the table. I call this show Uncensored because I wanted to celebrate free speech. But I've always been aware there are limitations. And under the First Amendment, which is one of the greatest protectors of free speech anywhere in the world, defamation is not protected under the First Amendment. And this was clearly one of the most serious defamations of a body of people that America has ever seen. So I don't understand why, just for that reason alone, why Elon Musk has performed this U-turn with Alex Jones.
I think the issue, Piers, is what they do on the platform. We have all kinds of terrible people using social media. We have people who lied the United States into a devastating war in Iraq, including the current president of the United States. We have people who defame all the time, like the guest I just heard in my ear tried implying, though she wasn't courageous enough to say who she meant, that one of the people on this panel...
So there's a segment in which earlier just to save time, because this is funny. Earlier, Nomiki was talking about how Russian bots were boosting up individuals' platforms, and she was hinting at Glenn. But now she says, "Oh, I have no problem calling out your name, Glenn. I have no problem calling out your name. It's easy to be brave behind a wall."
She wasn't courageous enough to say who she meant, that one of the people on this panel is somehow promoted by... I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm hearing a voice in my ear because I've not actually done talking yet. So the standard, Piers, that Elon Musk enunciated when he first bought Twitter is one that I supported, even though he hasn't always adhered to it, which is, as long as people are using that platform in ways that the law allows speech to persist, to be able to be expressed, then everybody should be able to be heard. What they do outside the platform, I don't think we want social media, Facebook saying, oh, this person did something terrible off the platform, now we're going to ban them. Otherwise, we're going to have big tech censors who sit in judgment of everybody's behavior and whether they're a good person off the platform.
Right, but on this, Alex Jones did use Twitter.
I like how everyone's dressed professionally, but our boy right there, just hooded sweatshirt and everything. I love it. I love it right there.
To amplify his disgusting lies about Sandy Hook. And he will now be able to monetize all of his conspiracy theories to his heart's content on X without having paid a single dime of the 1.2 billion damages awarded against him, which should be going to the families of the Sandy Hook victims that he so cruelly defamed. That's my problem with this, is he's not just any old Joe who got deplatformed, got brought back. This is a guy at the center of the biggest defamation case in recent times who hasn't paid any of his dues to these people.
But Piers, if he monetizes his platform on X, that is income that those plaintiffs will easily be able to get. And if he uses the platform to spread conspiracy theories or defamation that falls outside of what free speech absolutism is, and I think Twitter would be justified in banning him. But what do? You ban people forever if they say something defamatory? Like I said, there are people who have done a lot worse than Alex Jones who are using Twitter, including bringing about wars, lying to deceive the public in elections, And I don't think that we want this standard that says anything other than, as long as you say things that are within the First Amendment, you should be entitled to use social media. Once you don't, you should have a just punishment. He's been banned for many years now, and I think Elon Musk is saying, okay, it's time to bring him back and see how he uses the platform.
But so what to me? Okay, but you see, my criteria has always been that if you were a world leader or an elected official, actually, of any kind, at any level, then I think everything that you tweet should be left on the historical record in perpetuity.
Oh, Piers. Come on, lovely. You're better than that. You're better than that, Piers. Come on. What, these politicians? Listen, they could tweet out something and say that they didn't tweet it out, or say that their staff member wrote it, or that an intern did it, or their account got hacked, okay? And yes, everything they should post on social media should be out there forever. But remember, corporate media, if these politicians do play their roles right, well, the media will make sure, oh, well, he didn't mean it like this, or he didn't word it like this, or they give him a chance to do a second interview to get him to clarify what he said. We've seen this before. The politicians will get that shield wall around them. Piers, listen. The politicians in the establishment don't play that role. But hey, remember, Piers is kind of part of that club too. But I do love that he has a show called Uncensored, because it's kind of funny.
Perpetuity, right? We just had a big issue here with ministers losing their WhatsApp messages at the crucial part of the pandemic. Shouldn't be allowed. It should all be public property, this kind of stuff. So I'd separate elected officials from ordinary people like Alex Jones. But what Alex Jones...
But what about journalists? What about journalists who lied?
And I also want to give a huge shout out to Mastermind Hour in the live stream chat, who just said they just advertise his books. That's what they just did. Thank you for highlighting that. That's why I love the chat. That's why I love you guys, the audience. Now look,
that's
hold on.
Defame.
Because if Piers didn't like this, if he wasn't a fan of AJ, then why did he just show like a short little clip of AJ's book that's coming out?
That's my problem with this. Is he's not just any old Joe who got deplatformed, got brought back. This is a guy at the center.
If he didn't like AJ, why are you showing this The Great Awakening?
Of the biggest defamation case in recent times, who hasn't paid any...
The Great Reset and The Great Awakening. You don't have to believe me.
...any of his dues to these people.
But Piers, if he monetizes his platform on X, that is income that those plaintiffs will easily be able to get. And if he uses the platform to spread conspiracy theories or defamation that falls outside of what free speech absolutism is, and I think Twitter would be justified in banning him. But what do? You ban people forever if they say something defamatory? Like I said, there are people who have done a lot worse than Alex Jones who are using Twitter, including bringing about wars, lying to deceive the public in elections. And I don't think that we want this standard that says anything other than, as long as you say things that are within the First Amendment, you should be entitled to use social media. Once you don't, you should have a just punishment. He's been banned for many years now, and I think Elon Musk is saying, okay, it's time to bring him back and see how he uses the platform.
But so what to me? Okay, but you see, my criteria has always been that if you were a world leader or an elected official, actually, of any kind, at any level, then I think everything that you tweet should be left on the historical record in perpetuity, right? We just had a big issue here with ministers losing their WhatsApp messages at the crucial part of the pandemic. Shouldn't be allowed. It should all be public property, this kind of stuff. So I'd separate elected officials from ordinary people like Alex Jones. But what Alex Jones...
But what about journalists? What about journalists who lied the UK and the US into war? There are plenty of those people who still are doing those things.
And there are journalists that are smearing and defaming people. Jimmy Dore's been defamed and smeared. Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Glenn Greenwald, Russell Brand. So many people have been censored and been smeared by the establishment of media, especially those also fantastic journalists. Never forget those fantastic journalists at the Washington Post that went on strike for one day. Amazing.
They're still lying people into wars. They're still lying about wars. Are you comfortable with having?
I think that's a good point. I think honestly,
judgment.
Glenn, what about Nazis? I mean, you've defended Nazis in the past because.
Oh God, Nomiki's talking again. Hang on. Somehow Glenn Greenwald has been defending Nazis. He's never done that.
Free speech absolutist as a lawyer. So why is it some people get more power when it comes to free speech, more rights when it comes to free speech, but others don't?
Like who?
Again, this is
like
not
who?
A level playing field.
Yes, who? Who exactly? Name the names. Just don't be there. Name the goddamn names.
She's complaining because nobody has an interest. She's complaining because nobody has an interest in watching her show or listening.
Glenn, come on. Take it easy. Quit gut checking her, man. Come on.
Power when it comes to free speech, more rights when it comes to free speech, but others don't. Again, this is not a level playing field.
She's complaining because nobody has an interest. She's complaining because nobody has an interest in watching her show or listening to her on Twitter. So she's complaining that the algorithm somehow quiet her, suppress her.
I'm talking about algorithms in which people do not have equal rights. So you're using
no, that's not the case at all. That's not how it works on Twitter at all.
You're assuming that Alex Jones has the same rights as everybody else on Twitter. And that is just not true.
Yes, everyone had. Look, you don't have to. I'm not asking everyone to be friends with each other. No. Let's all keep on fighting each other. It's the one thing that's entertaining in this world. But goddamn it, we all have the same rights to speak out our goddamn freaking minds while we still can.
You know what? Okay, listen, it's a very interesting debate. I wish I could talk about it longer. We've run out of time, but thank you, all of you. All I would say is, personally, there has to be a line with people like Jones who commit atrocious defamations, are not held remotely accountable for it, and are then welcomed back like free speech heroes. They're not free speech heroes. He's a hate speech monster for me.
Oh, Piers, you know what? You missed out on an opportunity to have another viral video, man. Don't make me tell you how to do your show. So final thoughts, what is this? Nomiki seems to be upset, especially at the fact of, oh no, here comes AJ. Well, guess what? People like Alex Jones are going to be around, just like people like Trump, just like people like Biden. They're all going to be around here for forever and ever and ever. Okay? Now, you can do the responsible thing, and if there's something you don't like, look away from it. Mute it. Turn it away. Turn it off. If there's somebody that you don't like on social media, you don't have to follow them. If there's something that offends you, walk away from it. And of course, you have the right to speak out. But censorship, you call for that, well, then you better get one day ready to look up at this big old guillotine right there, right? And that's the guillotine of censorship, the big old razor. Because if you're all for it, get ready, because someday you'll be under that blade and your head will be a-rolling. Stand for free speech. And I have to say, cancel culture and deplatforming doesn't work. And people should be vocal against it, because I know what it's like. It's terrible. It's frightening. It's concerning. And the fact that many of our fellow citizens are on board with it or don't realize the danger of it, it tells me that we have a long road to go down so that we all can truly embrace free speech and understand how treasured it is. Because once we lose it, it may not be coming back for a long time.